Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me as always, he's got a family and a dog and a cat. It's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
Yes, this is Matt Freeman. I'm ready to confess to all of the crimes of myself and everyone that I work with.
Perfect. Let me just, hold on, let me get a pen and a pad.
I changed my mind. I've said too much.
Oh, but that doesn't make any sense and just proves that you're guilty. I'm running the story. Care to comment on it?
I'm ready to talk again.
Sweet. Who was it?
I've changed my mind again.
Damn it! This week on the show, in light of the death of Robert Redford this week, we actually were not sure what we were going to do for this week's episode. We were trying to figure that out, and then Robert Redford unfortunately passed away. And one thing I knew is that some of Robert Redford's most well-known films are things we've never covered on this podcast. So I went to Matt and I said, Matt, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid or All the President's Men? And Matt, you picked All the President's Men.
I did. Weirdly, I'd never seen either of those movies, but this one sounded, I don't know, more fun for some reason I can't explain.
Fun. You know, just the public's complete erosion and trust of the federal government is a roaring good time.
Well, I think procedurals are fun.
Yes,
I think I just like procedurals. It doesn't matter what the content is. You know,
I mean, we'll definitely talk about this, but I agree with you. Just like watching people do their job well, is a thing that is enjoyable to watch. I get it. Yeah. So we're going to be talking all about All the President's Men, and then we've got to circle back around to the penultimate episode of season 1 of Alien Earth. I'm really excited to talk to this about this one with you, Matt. Whew, what a show.
Yeah.
But before we do any of that, we have to circle back around to the thing we introduced at the very end of last week's very lengthy show, which is what we're doing on our next big project, which is Doof Movies, doofmovies.com. Matt, please explain once again what is this thing?
That's right. Just in case you missed it last time or in case you haven't checked it out yet, I created a website called doofmovies.com, and you can go over there and you can vote for your favorite movies of the 21st century. And if you're a Patreon supporter of Doof Media and you log in with your Patreon credentials, then your votes, your ranking for your favorite movies will be counted toward the global ranking for the best 25 movies of the 21st century. And then that will dictate what Scott and I cover over the next several weeks, at least 25 weeks. We're not exactly sure how the schedule is going to work, but the point is we'll start with the most popular movie and kind of just work our way from there. So
we're doing like a reverse countdown, but that's because we think the movies at the top are going to stay relatively consistent.
Right.
And the movies at the bottom of the list are probably going to change quite a bit over the course of the next few weeks.
That's exactly right. Go check it out. It's really easy to create your account. You can select your favorite movies, even if you're not a patron of Doof Media. But again, your votes are only counted if you are. And it's fun. I've heard positive reports. I was talking to a couple people the other day who were using it and were actually I was talking to them and then they went quiet, and it was because they were distracted by how engaged they were in sorting their list of favorite movies. So I saw that as a big success.
Excellent. That's great to hear. It's a pretty cool idea. I think the people that have messed with it already are having a good time. And right now, the 25th best movie of the 21st century is Chronicle. I liked that movie.
I did too.
Yeah, there you go. The system works.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, head to doofmovies.com, log in with your Patreon account. You do not have to be a paying member of Doof Media in order to do this. Of course, as Matt said, it will not count your rank unless you are, which means this is a really wonderful time to support us on Patreon. If you were wondering, if you were thinking about doing it sometime in the next few months, do it now, because then you get to knock The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King out of the top spot if you want to.
That's right. I've heard a lot of opinions about that movie being in the top slot. So
I would argue the least good of the trilogy, but that's like complaining about different types of caviar. I don't know why I
Yeah.
went with caviar,
Yeah.
which I don't really like, but
Yeah. Well, there it sits. So
yeah.
somebody else will need to join us and vote it down if that's going to happen.
Yeah, do something about it, you
That's right.
jerks.
That's right.
All right, yeah, doofmovies.com. Check it out. Matt, let's talk all about 1976's almost 50 years old this movie is. Wild to believe that. All the President's Men. What is this movie all about?
The Washington Post reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein uncover the details of the Watergate scandal that leads to President Richard Nixon's resignation.
This movie was written by William Goldman based off of the nonfiction book of the same name by Carl Bernstein and Bob Woodward. It is directed by Alan J. Pakula, and it stars, of course, Dustin Hoffman and the late, great Robert Redford. Matt, you said you had never seen this movie before. I had seen this movie before, so let's start with you. What did you think of All the President's Men?
It's great. It's like a 2-hour movie, and you're riveted the whole time because they really have paced out the twists and turns and the evolution of the story. It's almost unbelievable that it's a true story because it so well lends itself to narrativization.
Yeah.
Just literally what I just said, all the twists and turns and like, oh, we got them, but oh no, they've changed their mind. But wait, there's another way of going at this. And then, watching the reporters be creative. And I one comment I wanted to make is I'm not entirely, so I said earlier that I hadn't watched it, and I'm like not actually 100% sure that I haven't seen it before. I think that the truth is I might have seen it before when I was at an age where I just didn't understand what the hell was happening, and so I wasn't paying any attention to it,
Yeah.
or like I bounced off of it. And I think that's just kind of an interesting statement about a movie of this type, where if you don't have a pretty robust understanding of like
Watergate?
national of like not just Watergate, but like Watergate, and also the rules that reporters are bound by, and also like the details of the federal government and the different branches of government and what their responsibilities and obligations are, and a broad sense of what is legal versus not, then you're going to be kind of lost. So it's like it's a pretty high context movie, and since we're like old men who have lived in this country for a long time, it's like, yeah, I understand everything. But that definitely, I don't think is true if you watch this when you're coming at it from as a younger person, or maybe not from this country, for example.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I mean, one thing that's very true about this movie that you don't even really think about, and I certainly didn't think about the first time I watched it, is that it is basically contemporary with the Watergate scandal. Like, Watergate happens in 72. Nixon resigns in 84 or 74. Sorry. The Woodward and Bernstein's book comes out in 74, and 2 years later, this movie hits theaters. So like, this is all very, very fresh on everyone's mind. And I think the movie takes that under consideration, that the people, I mean, it's not like it doesn't stop and explain like what happened at Watergate. Like, it does basically explain the conspiracy. Not the part where we get to Nixon himself, although it does do that very quickly in some headlines from some stories. But it basically is a movie that I think treats you as if you kind of know the story, but maybe you don't know the details of the story, or like the how. You know the what, where, and why, but you don't know the how of it. And that makes sense in a story that like this is. We talked about. I mean, I don't want to compare 9/11 to Watergate, but like there were all these movies and stories released pretty contemporary with 9/11 that we were like, whoa, that feels really fast. And I wonder if that was the sentiment about this movie at all. Jesus, didn't this just happen? And we're already doing movies about it? Like, this is not like decades later we're trying to teach people history of what happened with President Nixon. This is real-time commentary practically.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I feel like the movie is trying to do a sort of act of meaning making, to kind of telling us what the story is and what we should take away from this.
Yeah,
I guess it's not too preachy. I wouldn't say it's too preachy, but toward the end, there's that particular moment where their editor is saying like, well, don't worry, all that's at stake is the First Amendment. and the free press and America, and it's like the movie is telling, that's probably not a thing that man ever actually said. That's like the movie
Sure.
telling us, like, this is how important the Watergate scandal was. And I don't know how much to talk about this element, because what I'm about to say is not really about the movie. It's about Watergate, right? Which is like, everyone in this movie lives in a world where this is incredibly shocking and obviously going to ruin the president and the careers of everyone around him. And there's this pervasive sense of accountability. Like, even from the beginning of the movie, they're like, I thought you were gonna fire Woodward because he, or like, if there's this implication at the paper that if you get a story wrong, it's your ass. Like, your career is in danger if you get a story wrong. And I just feel like in our modern world, it's like, no, you can't fire somebody for just doing their job badly. It's not a reason to fire someone. I've never heard of anyone getting fired for doing their job badly. And so it's just really interesting as a historical artifact. And I think that's tied to the fact that it came out pretty much on the heels of the event, where the movie itself was made in this world that still has this ethos that I think has changed quite a lot since then.
Yeah, I mean, I figured we'd eventually talk about this. I didn't think it would be like the first thing we talked about, but no, sure. I mean, I think it's one of the most fascinating things, and it was on my mind constantly while watching this movie. Obviously, this movie is a love letter to journalism and the power and importance of journalism, and so it is very particular and very exacting in those journalistic requirements. The idea of sources, the idea of that these two people were already kind of skating on the edge of things by printing so many stories that did not have named sources in them.
Mm-hmm.
But the importance of fact and the importance of having an editor that's going to check you and say, like, look, you can't prove this yet. You don't have it yet. These are all things that are like really important to functioning investigative journalism, and which isn't in and of itself like incredibly important to functioning democracy, right? Now that's something that I happen to believe, and it's obviously something the movie believes as well. And this kind of journalism does not exist anymore. Like it does to a certain extent. Like, there are obviously people out there like doing journalism still, but the way it's done here, like, and I'm not just talking about paper and notes and typewriters and things, but just like, the Washington Post doesn't have people like Woodward and Bernstein that can just spend this much time on this story and company resources to do it. It's just not how things work anymore.
Right.
And it's just like, it's the thing that there's a lot of stuff happening in the world right now as you and I sit here and record this episode, and I could not get it out of my head while watching the movie this time, that like, is there even the possibility of a Woodward and Bernstein existing in 2025? Is there, if Watergate happened today, is it possible that we would ever get to the bottom of the truth of it? And I don't know. I kind of don't think so. And that is kind of terrifying, actually.
I mean, I think no, like, for so many different reasons, just, you can just take a sort of, you can leave out the whole social media side of things and simply say, like, nobody reads the paper anymore. Right.
And papers don't have the power, like the influence, like, as this movie points out, every time they got to say Bob Woodward, Washington Post, that carried something with it. Yeah. And that's like, people talk to them because they were from the Washington Post.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting. There definitely are, still journalists, and they definitely still write stories, right? But it's like the like you're saying, I think they have to be scrappier and a bit more aggressive about the kinds of stories they want to go after, because they gotta get something out there. They don't have the luxury to spend the time going down this deep. I mean, so okay, so like one fun thing about the movie is I don't know. I always assume that a story like this, like any procedural really, is doing this thing where they're making it seem for the sake of the movie like these guys have absolutely nothing else going on in their life. And not only that, but they're like at a 10 out of 10 level of frenzy and anxiety about it at all times. To the level where you would have an aneurysm if you were at this level of agitation for like 2 days straight, to say nothing of several weeks and months.
Sure, yeah.
It's more fun to watch that way. Obviously, like you want to get a sense like, wow, these characters, they're so ambitious, they're so hungry, they're so desperate for the story and for justice and for but it's just like, no, I bet every once in a while there was a day where they were just not feeling it, kind of phoned it in,
Yeah.
kind of just like, yeah, I don't really have any ideas of what to do today. So, I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe everybody in the 60s or 70s or whatever were just that hardcore, but I don't think so.
No, I mean, I think it is interesting that one thing this movie does successfully do is really does spend time with what investigative journalism is, right? Like what it actually means. It means calling people a lot. It means getting doors slammed in your face. It means sitting in the Library of Congress for 4 hours going through like book checkout receipts. Like it is boring, difficult, grinding work to get one thing you need. And often you leave the Library of Congress having achieved nothing and gotten nothing. And so I think it does a really good job of doing that. But I think you're right. One thing that is really fascinating about this movie to me is it is very disinterested in these two men as people. Like this is not a movie. This is not the Woodward and Bernstein story, right?
Yeah.
I think the movie does do a very good job, both via script and direction and the performances of the two leads, of characterizing them in a way that like allows you to see them as characters to propel you through the story.
Right.
But yeah, ultimately, like who they are is second to everything else that's going on.
Yeah. Well, we do just enough to say Woodward is the new guy.
Yeah.
He's a little inexperienced. He's kind of on thin ice. He's a bit more by the book, and maybe he has a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, whereas Bernstein is a little bit freewheeling. He's been at this for a long time. He's more willing to skirt the edge, and this is all shown, like you said, through the choices they make and their characterization through the performances. But yeah, it's all just like the story. There's nothing auxiliary to it. And
I mean, there's like the introduction of both of them is just so matter of fact. It's like it's like there's been a break-in at the Watergate. We call Woodward and he wake him up, and like it's a wide shot on Robert Redford. Like we don't even get to see him in close up until later. And then we move on, and I was like, oh wow. And they spend a little bit more time on the Bernstein introduction. Like we get to see, I think there's again, very smart, efficient characterization there, where it's like he clearly wants on the story, and it's like, you got to finish up your other story first. It's finished. It's like, oh really? Hand it to me. I'm polishing it. And that's kind of like, that's perfect. And you get who this guy is. And then also through costuming and the way they play off each other. Yeah. And also think there's clever things with the way some of this stuff switches sometimes. Like at the very beginning of the story, Woodward is the one that's always kind of agreeing with the editor. Like, we don't have it. We need to push further. We need to do more. We need to get more. And Bernstein's the one saying, no, that's bullshit. And then later when they're at McDonald's arguing about it, that role has flipped entirely, where Woodward is now, he's so desperate to get the story that he's now pushing that. He's pushing the, we got it. And it's Bernstein that's like, well, hold on for a second.
Like what is the story? And I think it shows how the two of them together with their relative strengths were really necessary to really pull the story together. And also one thing I thought was really fun and almost cringe, like in the sense of like making me cringe while watching the movie, was the different styles they have in like how they go after what's the word, a source. Yeah, where like there'd be a scene where they would come to somebody's door, and it's so obvious that the person doesn't want to talk to them, but they're too polite to slam the door in their face.
Mm-hmm.
And Woodward and Bernstein, or depending on the scene, Woodward or Bernstein are just putting on this relentless pressure. And you, the viewer, if you have like any kind of social barometer, you're just like squirming at how basically how rude they're being. And then eventually they leave, and then they I'm thinking of a specific scene where they go and they have a conversation after a scene like this, and then one of them is like, well, we got to go back and ask her that then. And they just immediately turn around and go back to the same person that they just had this incredibly awkward scene with. And she's like, oh my God. And then they come to her a third time, like the next day or something. And she's just like baffled that they would be so, and they never have any sense of shame about it, which is great. I kind of didn't expect this element of the movie where it really emphasizes the borderline comedy of their rudeness.
yeah. I mean, one thing it's cemented in me is that I would make a terrible reporter. Like I just would not have the capability of pushing like they push to get the information I needed. And they do approach it a little bit differently. Like I think one thing I really like when they have I forget her name, but their reporter colleague that has a guy that works for Creep, which by the way, who decided that that we were going to call the committee to reelect the president was called Creep? Who made that decision? Terrible idea. Awful idea. But she has a boyfriend that works, and they're trying to get the list of everyone, and Bernstein's like pushing her and trying to guilt her into it. And Woodward's tactic, which I think this was actually just a calculated move of just like, he went for the soft move of just like, we would never make you do anything you don't want to do. We wouldn't do that. And of course that's what works on her and gets her to actually do it.
Right.
And so, yeah, just getting to see, and the movie, like you're so right. Like the movie is not interested in telling the story of these two people, but I think one thing it does absolutely do is demonstrate how like these two people were perfectly suited to play off each other in order to get this thing figured out. Because they do, like, their strengths are each other's weaknesses in a very specific kind of way that every time they get stuck, they figure a way out of it. Whether it's Woodward with his deep throat connection or Bernstein with his ability to sweet talk someone into giving them information, or just, barge into a door.
Right.
I think one thing that is really interesting, and that this movie is specifically saying, we were talking about this before we hit record, but like, people want to talk. That's the thing that, like, you made a joke of it at the start of the episode, but like, I just think it's absolutely true that when you have, especially a reporter coming to your door asking you questions about things, like, why do people talk? Why do people do that? Why do people risk themselves, angering the people above them? Because they really want to. They really want to talk. And just getting the perfect type of person there to either coerce them or push them or kind of rock them into the sense of security in order to get them to open their mouth and say things like that. That's just what these reporters are very good at accessing. But man, yeah, it's just like, why would you say that? Like, even sometimes they were shocked that someone would say something like, and you sure you told them you were a reporter? And you did not say off the record, and they said that? Okay, great. Really fascinating stuff.
I've been adjacent to situations where people were called by reporters, and in most cases they just tell the reporter everything that they know, because they're like, oh, this is cool. I'm like close to something that people find interesting. And generally, like, the reporter, not always obviously, but generally the reporter's trying to call someone who kind of doesn't have a dog in the fight, but knows about things regardless. So I think the movie shows this, where they're talking to these lower level people who obviously were not actually doing crimes themselves, but know all of the people involved and probably heard maybe secondhand or maybe directly about some of these things that make them uncomfortable. And these and those people, like, it's kind of it's almost it's easy for them to do it because it's almost like they're unburdening their conscience or they're confessing.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, you also see in this film they go after people who are much closer to the center of the thing, and those are the people who are extremely cagey. But even they, I think that's kind of the interesting and surprising thing. Maybe is even those people, they want to see justice done in some way, but they also are deeply conflicted about it because they know, like, number one, there's going to be blowback against them, and then also blowback against maybe other people that they care about. And it's going to be obvious that it was them who talked, right? Like, because if they're saying stuff maybe that
Yeah.
not very many people know, or and then it's even worse if they're going to be an actual source, because then their name is going to be in the paper as the guy who said this thing, and then everybody's going to know that they were the rat. So it's there's all these layers to it, and the movie does a great job of kind of teaching you this implicitly.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, in this really clever way of like, it kind of knows its audience is probably familiar with a lot of this stuff, but still can teach it to you in a way that doesn't feel like you're just being lectured to the entire time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it as a love letter to just this thing these guys are doing. Like all the shots, I think this movie is fantastically directed, and all the shots of just like the close-ups of notebooks while notes are being taken. The fact that Woodward like writes in like 6 different colors of ink, just like the typing, and just like the work of actually going down and punching the story into a typewriter. Like, again, this is one thing that like maybe it's just because we've moved away from typewriters, but it's just being on typewriter has a real effect in the story that like I just imagine typing out on a laptop just wouldn't have the same effect. It's just like the chunkiness of the keys, the manualness of having to slide it back over and pull the sheet out and actually hand it in. I don't know, just something that is of its time, but also like just tactile in a way that I just couldn't get enough of.
Yeah, it was very absorbing. The sound was really powerful.
Yes,
I felt
yes.
like the constant. So yes, like when you're watching our main characters and they're typing, it's very loud. The sound of the typewriter is mixed quite high, and then even when it's not them typing, it's just that they're in the newsroom. You hear this constant background clatter of
Yeah.
the industry of the free press. It's almost so much that it obscures what the characters are saying at times, but that wasn't a problem. I would say there's going to be one scene where I was like, okay, maybe a little bit too much background noise, but mostly it was just a positive contribution to the sense of atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, I had the subtitles on, as I apparently just do by default now. I didn't even realize that I was doing that, and then the other day I was like, "Hey, wait a minute!
Yeah,
I've had the subtitles on this whole time." I love all of that. I think just like the news, like this is there is something that I definitely like looked at, like the bullpen of the newsroom in this movie, and I'm just like, that's dead. Like that doesn't exist anymore. Like even you're absolutely right that there are still investigative journalists out there today, right now, doing great important work. But like that kind of newspaper reporting, like just like in that look of it, it's just gone. It's just totally gone. And I was a little. I mean, like progress is good. Like I'm not saying that we need to go back to when newspapers were created this way, but they're a little wistful for what used to be.
Yeah.
While watching the movie, for sure.
I genuinely wonder how often your average reporter ever has to go anywhere because,
I mean,
everyone can be reached by email or telephone or text, and like there are databases of phone numbers that they can use to contact anyone.
I wonder if it makes it harder because, like, I wonder how often they call. And like when a newspaper now wants to get comment on a story from someone, do they call them on the phone or do they send them a copy of the story and say, please provide your formal comment on the story? And like one of the things that Woodward and Bernstein we see in this movie do is they call the guy at 11:30 at night. They wake him up and ask him for comment on the story, and he's a little flustered and not fully focusing, and then says some shit he shouldn't say, and they of course take advantage of that. And if you sanitize it and like, here's an email attachment with the story, please offer your comment, you lose that ability to do that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. I think there's a lot of like a lot of what we see in the movie, assuming it actually happened this way, is them putting pressure, essentially high pressure sales tactics, you could call it, on people that doesn't really work in an email.
No,
you're just like, delete, right? So at the very least, you got to get them on the phone. And in this day and age, people don't even answer their phones anymore, especially for numbers they don't recognize.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so many moments where someone picks up the phone, realizes who it is, and knows that just hanging up is almost as bad as continuing to stay on the phone with them. So they just are stuck. And that is totally gone now.
Yeah. The phones that you were talking about, the tactileness of things, like even just like the big heavy black telephone handset, and the frequent rotary dials that we see people using.
Love it.
It's great. It's so much better.
It's so interesting because, again, like, this is not a movie that's 20 years removed from this, looking back on it wistfully. This is an of the moment movie. Like, it was not a choice, a like period piece choice to like focus on these big clunky typewriters and these tactile rotary phones and written notes and all these things that to a person in 2025 feels like specific and wonderfully tactile in a way that we're not used to. But it was just like, this is just what they were just, the movie is just reporting on what it looked like to investigate things, and that's it. And yet it comes off as this like love letter to this specific time in history in a way that, you could see someone making the movie this way in 2025 about Watergate, just talking about, oh yeah, we're going to really focus on the typewriters and the phones and the desks and everything of it. And it's just, it's kind of wild in that way.
Yeah. That's, I mean, that is really interesting. It would be like, I'm sort of just going to repeat your point here, but it would be like if somebody made a movie about something that happened, in 2024, and then in 40 or 50 years, people watch that movie and they're like, the iPhones and like you're just like, no, that was just what people use. Like it's not a thing.
But like, this is wild because like, if I watched a movie in 2026 about 2024 and the movie focused on like the iPhone screen and like the power of it as much as this movie focuses on the typewriter or the phone, I would probably roll my eyes at it. And I wonder if there was anyone that watched this movie in 76 and was like, why are you so in love with typewriters? I don't know. I think what the movie is in love with is not the typewriter. It's the act, the act of writing. And it's just, it is coming off this way to us because we are so far removed from this kind of thing.
I mean, a filmmaker has got to love the idea that it's like, this is a loud, sort of naturally photogenic piece of equipment that the character is pouring the story into, and it's just cool, actually. And you're right that it's cool in a way that watching characters type at a laptop would not be. Clicking with the little silent keys and watching watching the text appear on the screen, and then them being like nah, and then like moving the cursor over and deleting it and changing the word, like just the very sort of like permanence of the fact that you basically have to retype the whole thing if you want to kind of have a final draft. You can't just edit it, right? I mean, I know they do edit things, but like to have the final draft, I think they typically have to retype the whole thing back in those days.
They did. Like when he sends it to the editor, and the editor draws a line through a paragraph and rewrites it. It's like you got to go back to your desk and
right.
Yeah.
One thing I was thinking about that I never really thought about before was just like the character of Deep Throat. I mean, obviously is a real person, but like, let's we're crossing lines between talking about Watergate and talking about the movie.
Sure.
And I was just thinking about this character and how like annoying like how annoyed by him I was on this viewing, because
Yeah.
it's like he does provide useful information a few times, but he has this incredibly like self-important attitude and superiority where he's like, I can't tell you the whole thing. I'm going to give you these useless little clues, and I'm going to tell you if you're on the wrong track, but I'm not going to tell you any names or
Yeah.
anything useful. And you're just like, you asshole. You're just you are enjoying this is what you're doing. You're enjoying being like this opportunity to tattletale on people and sort of make yourself powerful in this way, but also like not actually you're not even being effective at it. You just enjoy this. And it was just, I don't know. I never really thought about Deep Throat too much before today.
Yeah.
So
No, you're so right, because like obviously like he was incredibly important to this whole thing being blown open, and you could argue like we would not have perhaps gotten to the point where we figured Nixon's involvement in it without them being Woodward and Bernstein being like helped by Deep Throat. But yeah, like he's such a no, like there's part of it that is like he's like the idea of you got to meet in this garage and you got to change cabs twice, and he's like being so secretive, and like I guess like the argument ends up being fair because there is a shit ton of surveillance and people's lives were perhaps actually in danger. But part of it comes off in me in 2025 is just like, dude, you're being a little silly. Like, you think you're a spy? Is that what we're doing at? Is we're playing spy?
yeah. And also like if it really was this dire, so dire that he wanted, okay, let me start over. If it was really so serious that he needed to blow the whistle and get the information to Bernstein, Woodward rather, then why dribble it out over the course of multiple meetings, each of which multiplies the risk of being caught and identified?
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, all right, we're going to have one meeting. Sure, we're going to be really, really careful about where we meet. And then I'm going to tell you everything, and then you're never going to hear from me again. And I never want to see you again.
Yeah.
That would be the way to do it, right? But I think the thing that we're picking up on that makes it annoying is like, okay, you go through all of this cloak and dagger bullshit, as they call it in the movie, but you're repeatedly exposing yourself to risk for no reason because you could actually just tell us the information.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, if you're gonna go whistleblower, yeah, you gotta like commit to it.
Yeah.
Like go full with it.
Yeah.
And like I wonder what ultimately like put, like, cause there's that scene in the movie where finally Woodward just has had enough of this and is just like, just tell me what you know. And Deep Throat finally says, okay. And he just, get out your pad, and he starts like relaying information. I wonder what was it in that moment? We could be talking about the real person, but even the character in the scene, like what was it that pushed him to finally be like, all right, fine. Let's do this. I don't know.
I mean, he calls him chicken shit, which is basically accusing him of cowardice, which interestingly to me was not my read on what Deep Throat is all about. He's not being cagey with the information because he's a coward. He's being cagey with the information because he enjoys the power of being the whistleblower. Like, it doesn't make any sense for the answer to be he's worried. It's like, no, if he was that worried, then he wouldn't have become a whistleblower.
Yeah, then he wouldn't keep showing up. And even the final meeting, like Woodward is late.
Right.
Like he fell asleep and he's late, but Deep Throat's still there.
Yeah. That's a good observation. I was thinking about that. I was like, what's the significance of this? And I think you just clicked it together for me. The significance is that because he sees that Deep Throat stays, breaks his own rules, he feels a little bit emboldened to push a little bit harder.
Yeah. Maybe he's figured the guy out in a way that he hadn't quite yet.
Yeah.
I like that. We have to talk about Robert Redford a little bit here because like the whole point of doing this episode this week is celebrating him. Man, what a guy! He's so beautiful.
Yeah, no, he's great.
I mean,
Yeah.
Robert Redford is like one of the all time greats, right? He's wonderful. I think he had such a fascinating and interesting career too. Like he wasn't always interested in just playing. Like he could have been like the pretty boy movie star that always played those type of roles, and he just chose not to be. And I think that's really really cool. And of course, the things he did outside of the screen, right? The Sundance Film Festival is all him. And incredibly important towards the state of film. So he really pushed independent cinema along in a way that no one else really could. So the great guy, wonderful performance in this movie. I really like him. I love the straight laced nature of him as compared to what Dustin Hoffman is doing with Bernstein. I loved seeing him get mad in a very controlled kind of way. And I love seeing it as how that stuff kind of changes over the course of the movie. Like I think at the start of the movie, he's very like he's always fully suited up, and like the comparison of the costumes of the two of them is that he's always got jacket and tie on, and Bernstein has got jacket off, sleeves rolled, like doing the work, like more casual look, where Woodward is always kind of very formal, straight. And it just really helps sell what they're doing with their characters.
Yeah, there's a ton of the acting is superb, right? There's a ton of storytelling done through, I mean, like you just said, the wardrobe, but obviously little nuances in their performances that I don't even, can't even claim to have like consciously registered. But yeah, it's like their demeanors, their level of agitation or nervousness or excitement or despondency just varying tremendously from scene to scene, never in a way that feels big or overdoing it. It struck me as like a very 60s 70s sort of naturalistic performance for Redford and Hoffman.
Yeah, man, I love how people acted in the 70s. I really love these naturalistic performances. These like they're stumbling over words, like you said, like the characters often talk over each other. There's this messiness of the dialogue. I really like it. I really do.
Yeah. And I love. I mean, what just like Robert Redford, I feel like he often plays like a confident guy, like some machismo, and because he's a he's a sex symbol basically. But I liked it in this movie. He's actually playing, to my mind, against type, where he's nervous, he's unsure, he's often making these small mistakes. Like there's several times really when the Woodward character is not he's not the best at what he does. He's trying really hard, but he's actually kind of the new guy actually. So, I mean, I think my favorite small moment is when he's flipping back and forth between the two phone lines and he calls the guy by the wrong name and then corrects himself. And like it was so well sold that I almost was like, I wonder if Robert Redford screwed that up. And they
I had the same thought. I had the exact same thought, and they just used that take. Yeah. That was great. I also really like another establishing moment of the two of them, but Woodward in particular, and the way Redford plays it is when Bernstein comes through, picks up his copy that he's just dropped on the desk, and just takes it and starts editing it and rewriting it better. And it's this real moment of possible confrontation between these two people, and the way Woodward handles it, I think, says something about his character. And I love the way Redford plays it, where he's just like, "You're right. Your version is better. Like you wrote it better than I did. You're right. I don't mind that you did it. I mind how you did it." And he like comes over and gives him all his notes. Like, if you're going to do it right. Here's all my notes. Don't do it that way again though. So like, he acknowledges that he has his inefficiencies and his flaws. But he's the type of character who's going to admit that. And this Bernstein is a better writer than me, or at least can take something I've written and make it better. And so I'm going to let him do that.
I think I've heard, I don't remember where I learned this. It doesn't matter, I guess, that just like, writing a newspaper story is really a very a very unique skill, right? Like, because it has to be very short. It has to be, the information has to be sequenced in a very specific way so that, and like, you don't even realize you're doing it, but like, I don't know. I used to read the newspaper when I was young, but when they would still arrive at my parents' house and they would be on the kitchen table, and I would be like, "Oh, that's interesting. Paraguay was invaded," and I would read the story. And like the newspaper kind of trains you how to read newspaper articles, and then like you can really tell when one of them is not written right. But like that doesn't mean you know how to write them. I if somebody told me to write a newspaper article, I wouldn't know how to begin doing that, right? So anyway, point being, like, I think what you're pointing out is just like Bernstein. He's been doing this for years and years. He knows exactly the skill set of turning the information into a newspaper article where the information is presented right and the sentences are unambiguous. And Woodward, he'll get there, but that's not his skill set at this moment.
Yeah, no, definitely. I also really like Woodward's little doodle he does of the spy as he's taking notes and on the phone. I love that detail.
Yeah,
of just he's gonna a little doodle. That's great.
Yeah, I love it.
So Matt, this movie was won 4 Academy Awards. It won for Best Director, Alan J. Pakula won. Best Writing, that's William Goldman picks up. I think he's got several writing Oscars, but here's one of them. It won Best Actress in a it was nominated for Best Actress in a Supporting Role for Jane Alexander, who plays the bookkeeper. And it won Best Actor in a Supporting Role for Jason Robards, who plays Ben Bradley, the editor of the newspaper. It looks like neither Hoffman nor Robert Redford were nominated for acting in this movie, which is a little surprising.
Yeah, that is funny.
It also did win Best Art Direction and Set Direction and Best Sound.
I wonder what else came out that year where the acting was just so good,
Yeah, I don't know. I misspoke, by the way. Alan Pakula did not win for Best Director. He was just nominated. And it was also nominated for Best Picture as well. So It looks like Jason Robards won, and then the writing won, and then second decoration and sound, but nothing else, which is, it's a little surprising.
Well, I mean, at least it was respected enough to get 1 million nominations. That's cool.
Yeah. Very well regarded film. Kind of the definitive film on this topic, and a movie that, like, I think really defined what like a investigative procedural would look like going forward. Like, there was a movie that came out, I don't know if you remember it, Spotlight. It came out, probably 10 years ago now. It was about the investigation of the Catholic Church and what they knew about the child abuse scandals. That movie, like, is a love letter to All the President's Men. Like, it is very much kind of the modern day looking at that investigative journalism thing. Complete with, like, the hard work that the people on the ground are doing, and I think also complete with one thing that we definitely see in this movie is Ben Bradley, like, did kind of have to stick his neck out for these guys, right? Like, if you had someone in charge that was not as willing to, like, go out on a limb and take a chance and trust people, perhaps this never gets that far. And so, like, this is another thing that, like, in news, in journalism, you need good, effective journalists, but you also need editors and owners and the newspapers, or whatever you want to call it, to take a chance and be brave. And yes, do the due diligence, do the work, make sure you've got the story, make sure you've got the sources, make sure you've got the facts straight, but then stand by them under pressure. And that is definitely something that's on my mind right now, Matt, is a media source standing by their people under pressure from the federal government. We don't have to go into details, but it is on my mind right now. And the fact that I don't know if that so much of the news has been subsumed by these giant corporations that are these giant public corporations that ultimately are there to serve their shareholders and get money. I worry that there are not people left in those positions that are willing to stand up for what they think is the truth and what's right and what is protected by our Constitution.
I suspect that's been true for some time, and what we're seeing now is just the consequence of it. Yeah.
Yes, I think you are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but to the specific character of the newspaper editor here, I mean, I really loved the character and the performance. I loved hearing that he won a Best Supporting Actor role because he so well conveys this idea that he is this older man who he loved being a reporter, and he loves the newspaper, he loves the press, but he really loved being a reporter and being the guy to chase down the story and break the story. That's what gets his blood on fire. And now he's the editor, and that's great because he gets to kind of decide the direction of the paper, and people, he gets the final say. But he misses it. He misses being a reporter, and you kind of see like the that part of him is ignited by the passion, the hunger of these two younger men who are clearly they want the story, and he's like, okay, I see that in them, and that is why we're doing this, right? Like we're said, and it's almost like he has his own little character journey, because I feel like in the beginning of the story he's being kind of conservative minded and like where's the details? He's crossing out lines and stuff. You kind of feel like he's almost antagonistic to our characters, and then by the end he totally turns around.
That was what I was going to say, is like there's a version of this story in which he is the antagonist, that he's the one standing in the way of, and especially coming from it, as everyone will, with the knowledge that they're right, that everything they're chasing down and everything they're struggling to prove is correct. Like that, like regardless of when you're watching this, if you watched it in 1976, if you're watching in 2025, we know that everything they found was correct. And it even went even further than we saw in the confines of the movie, because of course it goes up to Nixon himself, because the president of the United States was smart enough to record every single conversation he had in his Oval Office, which is just great call. Just great call, Nixon. Well done.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
These people were stupid, right? I mean, that's like, it is one of those things that when you hear about these like super complex government conspiracies, you're just like, so some of these people are so stupid. Like, I don't remember if we talked about it on air, but like the break-in into the Watergate is like the biggest bumbled stupid thing ever.
Every part of it. I mean, I was joking to you, like I could, number one, more successfully break into a building myself, and and then if I were caught, I'm pretty sure I would more successfully not immediately out myself as a government operative. It's just like the whole thing is just totally inept, and probably the whole thing would have blown over if they had just been more competent. But it's like they're not being competent. They're doing all of these cloak and dagger. I keep using the phrase because the movie used the phrase cloak and dagger things they shouldn't be doing. They're doing it incautiously. They think they're being oh so clever because they're like, we have such and such high up in the organization. He was protected, and it's like, well, what do you mean by that? And it's like, well, he would tell someone else to do the thing. It's like, okay, well, what if you like get them talking? It's like there's not, and what if Richard Nixon has tapes in his office where he's recorded everything? So it's just very funny that they went through all the effort of having these cutouts to protect themselves, and then it's all given away by literal tapes that they made of themselves. It's just the worst. So embarrassing.
Like, you wonder if they ever would have been able to actually prove Nixon's involvement in all this. And they ultimately didn't have to, because it was on tape.
It actually, it is interesting how, so there were several moments, really too many to name, but one, for example, would be like finding the check with the guy's name on it and being and tracing that to a specific guy. And then being like, okay, so what happened here is this guy donated this money to the committee to reelect the president. and then the committee to realize,
instead of writing that the burglar that they were paying off to do this crime, they just forwarded the check on to him.
They just forwarded the check. Yeah, exactly. It's so, but at the same time, you're like, So I guess like it's like that's a huge lucky break. If it were just like he had money on him, there's no lead at all. Like you're
right.
And I was thinking like, is it easier or harder nowadays? Because like all bank transactions are super, infinitely traceable.
Yeah,
cash is obviously less traceable, but you still have the record of you withdrew $25,000 in cash. And then they got $25,000. I mean, you can have a slush fund that's cash. You can. That's somewhat easier to do. But the whole thing is amateur. I would run a slush fund much more competently than these guys.
It is amazing how this is like literally the most powerful office in the country, and they just did it so half-assed.
Yeah.
It's also funny how much our country has changed since then, because like. Okay, look, I don't know that the United States government is spying on every potential presidential candidate, but come on.
Right.
Come on.
I like by default. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I really liked when they found the name of, they got like the name of one guy. Maybe it was the guy on the check, and they were like desperately trying to figure out who it was by just like looking through phone books. It's like, man, just Google him. What are you doing?
Yeah. What are you guys doing? Just Google him.
Also, like the way politics has changed. So the Canuck letter, which was a thing that brought down presidential candidate Edmund Muskie. I don't know if you've seen it, where it's just like he's just kind of mean to Canadians, and that's what cost him the presidency.
I have not. I didn't even. This is one of the elements in the movie where I was just a little out of my depth, because I was like, okay, here's some historical event that people in the time obviously would have been familiar with, but I just have no knowledge of this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like a scandal that came out that like it was a letter on stationery written by someone who claimed to have been in a conversation with the senator, who said like they were talking about if there are black people in Maine, because he was from Maine, and he said no blacks, but we have Canucks. What did he mean? We'll ask. We asked. Mr. Muskie laughed and said, "Come New England and see." And it's just like, man. That's the downfall of a presidential candidate.
He's
Times
out.
have changed.
Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, I always think about the Howard Dean scream, but
that's
that's
the perennial example of it.
But that was like 20 years ago, though. So
yeah.
Or I don't know how long ago that was. Honestly, it's probably 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
times have changed.
Yeah.
And being a journalist right now, I like if there's a journalist out there listening to us right now, God bless you. I don't know how you do what you do in this day and age with the speed at which news moves, and also like how little people care. I think that was one thing that was pretty timeless, was the moment at the very end of the movie where Ben Bradley is like, "Did you see the latest Gallup poll? Half the country doesn't even know what Watergate is. Nobody gives a shit about what you're doing." And yet that doesn't stop it from being important. And ultimately, in this case, one of the most important things that has happened in the history of our country.
Yeah. It is interesting. I mean, Woodward and Bernstein are names that I was going to say every American knows. Definitely not true.
No, not every American, but I mean, a fair amount.
Yeah. I think, they're one of those, like Lewis and Clark, Woodward and Bernstein, you learn these names, you remember them. They made a movie about them. It makes it easier to remember, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, how many other journalists can you name?
No.
Other than Clark Kent, Lois Lane. Like,
the best of the journalists.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't even remember the name of the journalist that broke the Catholic Church scandal in Spotlight.
Right.
That was a huge deal. So yeah. There is something about these two for sure. I mean, when Robert Redford died, I turned to one of my coworkers, and she's like in her mid-20s, and I was like, Robert Redford died, and she goes, I recognize the name.
Oh man. Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
and I'm not chastising her. It's just like this is what happens, you know.
yeah. I mean, the movies, he was huge even before our time, and then his star had kind of set when we were young. I mean, literally,
sort of like he just always did different things, right? Like again, he could have been like I think there's a story. I was listening to a podcast this week talking about a story of like he comes in, like I forget on what movie, but with Brad Pitt, and it's like basically like he was the proto version of Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
And like one of the things he says is like he tells Brad Pitt, you don't have to just be like the good looking leading man actor. Like you can do more, and you should want to do more. And of course, I think Brad Pitt really took that to heart, because Brad Pitt's career is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I think this is the same with Robert Redford, that he like didn't want to just do the same thing over all the time. Wanted to play the bad guy sometimes. Wanted to play difficult characters you didn't feel great about.
I mean, I think the character that I saw him as most recently before watching this movie was Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
where he's the villain, and he's great. Like he gives it his all in a. I mean, I happen to like that movie, but like he's you could phone in the Marvel villain performance, and I thought he did great. He took it really seriously, and it's a really, he kind of elevates the project really.
I really like that movie. I think again, it's a testament to him that he's just like, oh yeah, I want to check out these Marvel movies. I want to see what's going on here, and I want to play a bad guy. And he was always willing to explore, and kind of just in love with film and in love with the industry, and is always willing to play in it. So yeah, it's great. Yeah. Do you remember the first Robert Redford movie you ever saw?
Oh no, certainly not. I don't think I've seen all that many of his movies. You know, I confess that I haven't seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry.
Yeah, I want to.
Have you seen The Sting? The Sting was one of the other, like I thought about giving you like a list of 3 films, and The Sting would have been the other one.
I feel like I probably have. I feel like my mom, this is one of the reasons why we're doing, podcasts together, is that my mom was very diligent about getting me to watch a lot of like movies that were important to her when I was a kid. And they were like definitely not movies that were like popular at the time. They were, things from her life and her youth and so forth that she liked, that she thought that I would like. So I think I watched The Sting in that context. And but I'm just I don't, like I said, haven't watched a lot of his movies.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the one that I probably saw first was The Natural, because I was like, as a kid, I watched a lot of baseball movies, just a lot of baseball movies. But I think the one I think about the most is The Last Castle. Did you ever see the 2001 film The Last Castle?
No.
That is when he plays a court-martial general that gets sent to a like military prison, essentially. And the leader of the military prison is a colonel played by James Gandolfini, and he's bad news.
Okay.
And he basically like starts like gets all these criminals, like military men that are now criminals, and he gets them he wins over their respect, and they like plan an uprising in the prison to remove this corrupt, terrible colonel that's the warden of the prison. It's a very good movie. It's got Mark Ruffalo in it too.
Cool.
It's I mean, maybe I'm just remembering it more fondly than it is, but I really liked it. And he's like, I don't know, just like he's so good and like pure in the movie. And he's kind of a man that like the thing that he got court-martialed for, like he did. And so he's a man that feels the responsibility and the guilt of his mistakes, while also just being this at his core, this good person. That's Robert Redford for me.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I've always.
You should watch that movie sometime. We should do that movie. It'll be fun.
We should do that. I agree.
I would love to make like a Robert Redford Hall of Fame list, but yeah, I'm with you. I just haven't seen enough of these movies.
Yep.
I think one of his like last films was like a movie where he doesn't talk at all. Did you ever see All Is Lost?
No, I don't
It's
think
just
so.
like he's like just a sailor that like gets stuck in a storm, and the whole movie is just like him struggling to live out in a sinking boat in the middle of the ocean.
Sounds like a fun challenge, and it sounds like the kind of thing he'd be really good at, because it's one thing I noticed about this movie is how much he's communicating in these scenes where he's just like, typing or looking at his notes or whatever.
For sure. Man, what a guy.
Yep.
I'm going to miss him.
Me too.
But we always have his movies. How old was he? He hung in there. He was 89. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
nice.
pretty good.
Excellent.
It's a life well lived, I think. Yeah. And of course, his film festival, hugely important. It is a little weird to me that Sundance is moving. Like, he's from Utah, right? Robert Redford is. That's why Sundance is in Utah. I think there's like a legendary story about him just like driving his motorcycle to the middle of nowhere, Utah, and then being like, "This is where I will build my church to cinema." And now, of course, Sundance is moving to Colorado, so it's a little weird, but hugely important, influential, and a great person too. Robert Redford was a great student of film and purveyor of film, and we'll definitely miss him.
Yes, very, very. I don't know. Great actor. I'll say that much.
Yeah. And we need a new Woodward and Bernstein stat, America, please.
Yeah.
Expose. There's got to be something that needs exposing right now.
Just pick something and expose it.
Please. All right, Matt. Before we go, let's talk about Alien Earth. Episode 7. This is the penultimate episode of the show. What did you think, Matt, of episode 7 of the show?
Well, I guess I have to report this is my least favorite episode of a show that I love.
Okay, that's fair.
And I specifically, despite the fact that it has one really great scene in it, it
probably
also
know which one you're talking about.
Yes, it also has a couple of, in my opinion, unusually poorly done action sequences that I was like bafflingly poorly done action sequences that left me feeling down. Especially like as the episode is ending, I'm like, But
I think everything with the xenomorph did not function in this episode, and I wonder if it's partly because it's outside in broad daylight.
100% agree with that. That's half of what I was talking about, and the other half is when they then get onto the boat, and it just doesn't make any sense because there's like 80 people standing around with guns.
Yeah,
and then we have the two synth characters on the boat fighting, but they're fighting the people who are on the boat and like literally tearing them apart physically.
And the rest of them are just standing around.
And the rest of them are just standing there. And like the choices of like where the camera is it's just like, this has terrible moment to moment action filmmaking characteristics.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of the episode that was bad. It was just like, I kind of expected more from this show. There's also a lot of good stuff in this episode. I kind of wanted to get that out of the way first because it was the one time in the whole show so far where I've just been like, what happened?
No, I agree with it. And there have been a lot of complaints about the show so far that like it pushes your suspension of disbelief at times. That's the things people have been saying. And I really hadn't felt that until the boat scene where I was just like, the way you've constructed this scene, the way you've laid it out with the sheer number of people here. And like you can kind of try to yada yada away, but like they were specifically under orders not to damage any of the merchandise, right? It was like, I get that, but the merchandise is ripping the chin off of people now,
right?
So maybe we want to change that, or I don't know, have like stun guns or something, so like something that we know exists in this universe. So I do like it. All is very specifically constructed to get to this point where Wendy's brother kills Nibs, right?
I think
I think kills.
This is one of the notes I didn't like, is that the way she reacts, it seems like kills, but I was like, that
I
was
thought
like
that
a
was
weird
a little
electrical
stun
gun
thing. Yeah, I thought that was a little stun gun, but it seems like she's dead.
She was like thrashing around and foaming and stuff. But
Yeah.
but again, like you said, I'm like, then why have it be an electrical shooty gun
And not just a bullet to the head,
and not just a bullet that hits her in the brain and then she's dead and then it's very clear, you know?
Yeah. But the whole thing was constructed so we can have that moment. And I think emotionally that moment works, right? This is something we've been building to the whole show so far, is like, who is Wendy? Is Wendy the little girl she used to be? Is she something else? Is she a combination of those two things? Is she not? I really liked the scene when they see their own graveyards, and how that hits home for her. And then so we put her, we have had this thing with her brother, is like, she's obviously kind of been obsessed with her brother throughout a lot of the early show. And now we're in the situation where she's changing and she's not sure if she wants to go with her brother or not. Still, she like, if that's a right move for her, of just going back home with him and just being a family together. She's also like has a pet xenomorph, which is imminently disturbing to us and to him, watching this happen. And it is all building to this final moment where he chooses the life of a human being over the life of a synthetic, and she didn't like that. She did not like that.
Yeah.
And so I thought that moment worked very well. But everything the show needed to do to set that up, I kind of agree with you. I was like, man, this feels really clunky for me.
Right. I mean, it's funny because it's like, on a script level, I totally get it. I understand everything we were going for, and I even felt it. But the execution of that script was inadequate. Was actually quite bad. Really, that scene and the previous scene where the xenomorph tears everybody apart in the woods, like you said, really suffers from being totally well lit. That's just not a thing that we should do with the xenomorph.
Yeah, I mean, there have been times when I thought the CG of the xenomorph was less good than others, but this is the first time I was like, oh, I think this is just bad. I just think this is bad.
Well, a lot of it is a dude in a suit, I think, and that makes it, and it looks like a dude in a suit when it's in broad daylight.
Yeah.
Whereas when it's in the dark and in a corner, you can really easily suspend your disbelief. You know it's a dude in a suit, but you see it as being something inhuman.
Yeah.
I just thought like there's a lot of I don't know. There's a lot of like weightlessness to the violence, where you're just kind of like flippy tail thing, and I mean, you know, harshest thing I can say is like, just like, compare that scene with the event that happens toward the beginning of Alien Covenant, where they land on the planet and the little creepy guys who aren't quite xenomorphs but are basically xenomorphs, they like fuck up a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And it's like really visceral and upsetting and violent in a way that you're actually like, oh my God, like that. I didn't feel anything about this. And it's like, I don't know. I'm harping more even than I thought about this before, because what I liked, the dramatic stuff worked on me. Like you said, we've really developed these dramatic through lines.
Yeah.
And I continue to like everything that we do with the eye. Maybe one of my favorite eye moments this episode, where Boy Cavalier has the eye sheep in his office and he's communicating with it, and I just love this. This just tickles me as a unrepentant nerd, that he goes, this number 3.14. What's the next number? And then like Clever Hans, the sheep, taps out the next two digits of pi, and then he says, and the next one, and then it shits on the floor because it's like, fuck you, I'm not going to do anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not going to do 9.
I've proven my point.
Yeah, right.
Fuck you. Yeah, like so much of a more impactful moment than if it had just stamped out 9 or even just stopped there. It's like, yeah, and then of course he's immediately like, oh my God, we got to get this in the head of a human, which we knew was coming, and here it comes. Sheep, MVP of the show. Yeah. I think one more bad thing I'll say, and then we can just talk about the good stuff. I feel that Wendy controlling the xenomorph in the way that she does, I kind of don't love. Like, I like it as this, like, this thing that she can kind of unleash, and like it just destroys people as it goes. Like, I like that. I don't like it as this almost pet where she's like, just hang back out of sight, and I can call you to kill these specific people and only these specific people whenever I feel like it.
Yeah.
I don't love that. It neuters it in a way that isn't fun for me.
I just wish I understood a little bit better. Like, why is this happening? I don't know how to phrase it exactly. Like, what? Like, this is a previously completely unexplored element of the xenomorph, is the idea that they have a language. I say it's not 100% unexplored, because we have like two things I can think of. Like, number one, the fact that in Aliens, the aliens live in a hive, but
yeah, you could argue that it sees Wendy as its queen, and like one thing we did see from Aliens is that the queen like tells the xenomorphs to back off. So like there is communication there. It's not the clicking communication. She just like moves her head, and the aliens kind of back off.
Right.
And she can also somehow also control when the eggs open up. But that's beside the point.
I mean, the movies never tell us any of this, but I always just kind of assumed that they were like a little bit psychic with each other, and that again, there's no evidence for that, but I definitely
but I think Resurrection kind of implies it to a certain extent.
I was going to mention Resurrection with the Ripley being able to communicate with them. So, and that's kind of, it's not really the core of my complaint, I guess, because I think it's like what we're trying to do is we have this idea where Wendy can do stuff that even Cavalier doesn't understand, where she can like hack into computers with her mind. And it's like, okay, well, and she can also, communicate with alien entities without even really trying that hard. She can kind of interface with other systems effortlessly. Is just a thing she can do. And I guess that's fine as far as it goes. I don't know. It's funny because I share your not loving this element, and I'm just having a hard time putting my finger on why, especially when I've been kind of emotionally open to so many of the other things the show is doing that, like we said a few weeks ago when we started talking about this show, like on paper, I feel like I would think this was a stupid idea. And then the show does it. And I'm like, that was actually fun. Like, you made it fun and you executed it well. And now I like it, actually. Don't feel that way about this element, I guess, for whatever reason.
Yeah. I mean, I like it conceptually, but yeah, I think just the execution of it left me a little cold this time around. But I mean, all that aside, I love everything else in this episode. Timothy Olyphant's Kirsch continues to be just incredibly delightful. Still don't even know what his game is, but the what are you doing moment, the fastest way to the beach is this elevator right here, was
so good.
Perfect. I really did like the stuff with Arthur, the poor scientist, and with Slightly and Smee, I think is what the other kid was, and of course the always well-timed chest bursting scene that is coming. The director of this episode has a lot of fun with that, knowing that we are waiting for it the entire time. We do a lot of very deliberate framing of the Arthur character where we isolate him in the frame. And you're just kind of waiting for him to hunch over in pain or to start. The director knows what he's doing there. And I thought that was very, very fun.
Yeah. And I like that we don't do the thing where we're like, oh, it's going to be scary when it happens. It's like, no, that the point of this emotionally is that it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Because this is like one of the only people in the entire world who genuinely cares about these kids. In fact, he's the only one who actually loves them and hasn't betrayed them like his wife did. And now he's dying, and it's sad. You see that the kids are devastated for having done this. There's this betrayal between them now, because even Slightly or Smee didn't actually realize what was going on. He was going along with it without fully understanding the implications. So or the
Yeah.
consequences.
And the fact that it happens right after this moment of Arthur going, I don't know what's going on. I know you two are lying, but it's okay. Like, come back with me. There's nothing we can't work through. There's nothing we can't figure out. It's going to be okay. And that, of course, is the moment.
Yeah, right.
And it's just like, yeah, like
Yeah.
you're right. It's not supposed to feel terrifying. It's just supposed to feel sad. You're just supposed to be sad. And it is really, really sad.
Yeah.
Man, love this. I mean, the only other thing I'll say is like Morrow doesn't get a lot to do in this episode.
Yeah.
And he's like my favorite. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with him. He gets kind of, again, we don't know what's going on with Kirsch. So like he tricks Morrow and leads him into a trap and then arrests him. So to what end, Kirsch? What are you doing?
Right.
Whose side are you on, Kirsch? Are you on anyone's side?
I know that's the fun thing is you like last episode, maybe we had a theory about what he was going to do. And then he does several things in this episode where it's like, well, that's not what I expected him to do.
Mm-hmm.
He went through all that rigmarole and then he just captured the xenomorph. Like I thought he was going to betray them and give the xenomorph baby over to Weyland Yutani, but then it's like, nope, captures the Weyland Yutani guys and captures the xenomorph.
Yep.
And like just so many things where you're just like, what are you doing? I think I saw somebody suggest that maybe him and Boy Cavalier have like a more of a long con going on than we currently realize. I don't know if I buy that, but I do.
I would be a little disappointed if he's just working for Prodigy the whole time. Actually, like that would feel a little. I would feel a little let down.
Yeah. I still think just like comparing him to David, the android, is the most accurate. Where it's like he just kind of wants to see things happen.
He's just curious. Yeah, he's just curious, and he wants to see what happens.
Yeah.
And he definitely has a chip on his shoulder about humanity. That's for sure.
Yes.
And so once again, we have these, like, I'll repeat what I said a few episodes ago. We have 3 different versions of non-humanity competing with each other, with the cyborg, the synthetic, and then the hybrid. And how this is going to shake out, I have no idea. But there we are.
And Wendy has for the first time sort of posed the xenomorph itself as being a potential candidate for the 4th.
That's a great point. Yeah,
but which everyone else except her finds horrifying because it's like no, they're totally unlike us, and she's kind of like, well, so am I, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm scared for and of everyone in this show.
Yes,
which is exactly what you want from an alien show.
Exactly. I can't. And we got one more episode, and we're going to find out the answer to the mystery. Everybody's been wondering whose head is that eye going to end up in.
So he said, Boy Cavalier says he has the perfect candidate for it. Who do you think he means?
Well, we immediately cut to Wendy's brother.
Yeah.
So I assumed he was the one that they meant because he's disposable.
Sure.
I mean, I
would be a little okay. Maybe I would be pretty jazzed about that, actually.
Well, I don't think that's actually going to happen because
maybe not.
So
I still think it's going in Boy Cavalier's head. Like I think that's where we're leading this whole time.
I agree. I mean, this is the thing. Okay, so like, this is you've always been much better at guessing where stories are going than me. One of the several reasons for that is that I always think simplistically, like, well, an announced plan never actually goes off the way it was planned in stories, but then often they do is the thing. So so in a show like this, if you say if Boy Cavalier says he's going to put an eye in this guy's head, maybe that's just what's going to happen. But because it was kind of lampshaded or telegraphed, I'm immediately like, because that's not going to happen because you pointed us in that direction.
I think it could happen, but it's just not the final state of what we're doing with it. Like, I don't know. Like, let's try to get Peter Pan with it. If Boy Cavalier is Peter Pan, then maybe the eye is Tinkerbell?
Yeah. I mean, we don't have a Tinkerbell yet.
We don't.
Unless it's Kirsch.
It could be.
Who is Kirsch?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
But did you hear the theory that that Morrow is Captain Hook because he's got like the one hand thing going on?
I mean, no, but that's definitely 100,000,000% perfect. Yes, that was totally intentional. Now I'm immediately sure upon hearing that.
I mean, the actual question I have with this is like, how much does the Peter Pan shit matter to what the story is actually doing? I don't know, because I don't know Peter Pan enough. I mean, I know like the broad story of Peter Pan from the hundreds of films we've seen over time, but I don't know. I've never read Peter Pan, so I don't know enough to know like what we're actually gonna do.
I don't either. I mean, the isn't the original sort of original version of Peter Pan like quite a bit different than the version that has
Yes.
sort of become
The
pop culture?
Disneyfied,
Yeah.
yeah. It is, yeah, for sure.
And I have minimal awareness of that original version of it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. I don't know.
Yeah, I learned a funny Easter egg about the movie I, Robot.
Okay.
From the Aliens Discord Reddit, which is
We're talking about the Will Smith, Shia LaBeouf classic.
Yep, the classic. The scene when Will Smith's car drives off the road and the robot saves him, but not the little girl.
Mm-hmm.
The robot smashes in the window, and there's a very brief shot of this robot leaning in the window. There's clearly a Weyland-Yutani logo on that robot's chest.
What?
Yeah, it's absolutely there. You can find screenshots of it. Just a funny Easter egg, I thought. Anyway.
Terrifying.
Yeah. So that's what we're saying is the iRobot universe with Will Smith canonically the same as this TV show.
I can't believe Will Smith was in an Alien movie.
I agree.
Never would have expected that. Wow.
It's great.
How's he doing?
It also implies that the androids in that movie were immediately enslaved and then turned into the synths that we see in this movie.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. All right. I think they've got a lot to wrap up in one episode, but I also have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to make more of this, and they're not planning on wrapping everything up in 1 hour. So we'll see what dangles and what wraps up next week. The final episode.
Yeah.
Season 1.
All right.
So your prediction right? Boy Cavalier gets the eye.
Yep.
Is Wendy's brother making it out of this thing alive?
I think so. I think he makes it out alive, but he and Wendy part ways.
Is there? I think you're probably right. Is there a moment that ends with one species of alien, like Jurassic Park-esque, getting off the island? And which would you be most terrified of? So here's my thought. Like, when the xenomorph first busted out of Arthur's chest and then runs into the jungle, I'm like, oh shit, this is the start. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. That thing can't produce more of itself. It's just going to kill a bunch of people and die. But like, if those flies get out, man,
yeah,
that's not good.
I mean, I don't want to be overly, literal about things, but like the flies, there were a bunch of fly offspring on the ship from the incident where the engineer's apprentice drank the stuff and then had a bunch of the like larvae hatch inside of his body. I'm pretty sure that those didn't die. We saw them like crawling somewhere and then we didn't hear about them anymore. So my feeling is that was like a setup for, end of the season montage of like, here's what's going on back in Prodigy City. And it's
melting, people being eaten by flies.
A horrifying fly infestation that has just spread exponentially.
Maybe that's why they're terraforming planets like LV-426, because Earth has been overrun by melt flies and they can't live there anymore.
I think so, because I think it's a sort of low-key setting element of this universe that Earth has been ruined somehow. So and they're always really vague about it, but I think that's one of the things the show is going to do is play with that.
Yeah, sure.
So
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we will see.
I also feel like there's one more Chekhov's gun in the form of the weird plant thing that hangs down from the ceiling, because we haven't.
Gosh, they've really been playing the long game with what the fuck that's gonna do.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that's got to come into play some way.
It's gotta. Just wanted to remind everyone of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm trying to find out what the title of the final episode is. I don't know if that's been released yet. It has The Real Monsters.
Oh, okay.
Who are they?
Turns out it's
Us.
man.
It's
Yeah.
people.
Right.
The Walking Dead are us.
Yeah. Of course.
All right, folks, that's all we have for you this week. If you have any thoughts on Robert Redford, All the President's Men, or Alien Earth, please reach out to us. You can find us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com or over on X. I still hate saying that. At doofmedia, reddit.com/r/doofmedia, Instagram at doofmedia, all the places. Find us.
Yeah, if you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, you can find us wherever you find your podcasts.
And of course, if you want to support us, please consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You're probably going to want to do that anyway to participate in doofmovies.com. So head on over to patreon.com, pledge at any of the available levels, and allow your top 10, top 20, top 100, if you want, to weigh into what the Doof Media top 25 films of the 21st century are.
That's right. Also, please consider rating and reviewing the Doofcast on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here. And then that ranking will become more accurate. We'll get a more accurate top 25 films of 21st century.
Yeah. Speaking of which, next week we will begin our journey through those movies, possibly with the number one film, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, probably, but we'll see.
There's no fucking way I'm watching just The Return of the King, by the way. So what our listeners have done to us is I now must watch all 12 hours of the extended Lord of the Rings between now and next week when we record.
You guys got to fix this, please. Come on.
Please help me out here. I don't have a lot of time. Just why don't you bump up Dune Part 2?
Yeah. We haven't talked about that one somehow.
I'm shocked Yes, we have. I'm shocked Dune Part 2 is considerably higher than Dune Part 1. Is that an actual legitimate feeling that people like the second one better than the first one?
I don't know.
Is that how you feel?
I like the second one better than the first one, yeah.
Interesting. Fascinating. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe we'll talk about that. I don't know. We'll see next week.
Great.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.